all Cowboys fans would love to win the Super Bowl.
Big game.
But how many playoff wins would satisfy the Cowboys fan base in this run? Because I'm sure somebody asked us that yesterday. I'm sure there are some that are like, it's 4. If you don't win the next 4 games, this season has been a failure. I am not of that opinion.
I'd say 2. You win 2, lose your 3rd one, I'm okay.
That would put you in the NFC Championship game.
And I think that is the answer.
I do too, just because it feels like a dream if that were to ever happen again. I've relegated myself to the Cowboys are never playing in the Final Four again. So if they were to make it, which, look, it's very doable. You're playing a team that's 8-9 to start off the playoffs. Yeah. And then most likely you would play a team in Philadelphia who has their own issues. Yes, they are better on a piece of paper, but they look very beatable. So I would think that you can win 2 games here. You're not asking the impossible.
I think for a lot of the fan base, Kevin, I think for a lot of the fan base, 1 win is good enough. Win a game in the playoffs, and they're pretty excited about that. But I think a lot of the other fans that are like maybe even more hardcore fans or whatever, are in the mindset of you should actually be in not the wild card round, sitting here, not hosting a game.
Yeah.
You should be hosting a game, understanding that Philadelphia had a really good season this year, like an exceptionally good season.
Best in their franchise history in terms of number of wins.
For me personally, get to that NFC Championship game. I think Derek's right. Get 2 wins, put yourself in that position, and that's good because the road looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Philadelphia. Your quarterback's good against Philadelphia, and you should feel pretty confident there, especially with them having a bum arm. Beating Tom Brady would be a moment like, I'm going to go back to this. It would be not as big as a moment of striking out A-Rod for the World Series, but that dude is a block in your way, and you need to overcome that. You need to get past that at some point.
I mean,
the Yankees were always a block in our way, right? Like our whole childhood was stupid Yankees.
If you want to look at it from that perspective, the playoffs are perfectly set to knock out all of your recent problems. You knocked out, like Corey just said, Tom Brady in the first round. Your most likely second round matchup, unless there's upsets, would be to go to Philly, who has been kind of running the show in the NFC East, and they won the division this year. And then you would most likely play the NFC Championship game against San Francisco, who wiped you out last year. Like, you have the opportunity, if it felt like that, to knock out a whole lot of playoff and regular season issues in one run.
If they're going to do it this year, if they're going to do it, this is the year, because if Aaron Rodgers already fell out, so he's not even in the playoffs, that's a good sign to already show that Brady's probably on his way out too. So, and this is the time to do it. If you're going to do it now, it needs to happen. But the only thing that worries me is the Buccaneers are healthy, is what Brady's saying. And how true is that? We don't know.
I think he's probably right about that. I think there are a lot of reasons to worry, but that's the whole reason this question intrigued me, right? Is because that question came in from the 214 yesterday, and then I was looking at the over-under win totals for the season. The Cowboys were predicted to win 10 games. They won 12. They beat the over-under by 2. That's a plus. But in this moment, doesn't it feel like this fan base is miserable? Like, I've already seen multiple texts where it's like, who are you kidding? You know who this team is. They're losing in the first round.
Yeah.
This fan base right now feels miserable.
But didn't you say they're already miserable too? They want Kellen Moore out, even though he's been producing back-to-back high numbers of offense.
And here's
scoring, I should say.
And here's the reason why. I brought this stat quote up the other day. I will bring it up again today when people are asking about how long it's been since they even made it to the NFC Championship game. Dak said, that was then and this is now. We haven't played for the last 26 years. I've played for 7, and we're not going to let our focus or anything be deterred because of other people's doubts. That's why the fan base is so miserable, because they don't look at it as, I can't believe we haven't won in Dak's 7 years. It is also, I can't believe we haven't won in Dak's 7 years or Romo's career. Or I can't believe we haven't won in now going on 27 years. Like, all of that is built in. And the fact that of the first 30 NFC Championship games, you played in 15 of them, so exactly half, and none in the ensuing 26, that's I think that's why I feel very sure that is why the fan base is so miserable and kind of like geared towards failure.
I do think the Tennessee and Washington game is the thing that concerns everybody, because the Tennessee game, you're playing against a guy in Dobbs who's probably never going to quarterback another game in the NFL the rest of his life. And then you went up against Washington, who kind of had nothing to play for, and you did have something to play for. And it's, if you want to believe Jerry,
handed to you,
that he said that they were really playing, at least in the first half. I'll at least go that far. They were really trying everything they could to make sure they got a W. So if Philadelphia were to be upset, you could go to the 1 or the 2 seed. And so I just look at that, and I think that's why a lot of Cowboy fans are like, God, they didn't look good against Tennessee, and specifically Dak. And then you look at Washington, and he had his arguably worst game of the year, unless you want to call the first game of the year his worst game of the year. And so you just go, man, Philadelphia was a great kind of game for Dak after the first pick six. But then the defense looked really bad against their backup quarterback. So I think there's just a lot of things going, man, ever since you look at kind of Thanksgiving was the giant game. And Indy was a close game until the fourth quarter was the greatest fourth quarter we've ever seen, and it counts. Houston was the only team you could beat playing that way on that day. Jacksonville, you went to Jacksonville and actually screwed up a win in the end and got a loss. Then you went to play Philadelphia. That game lost a little bit of its kind of build-up because of Jalen Hurts, but you did win the game, and then you didn't really look anything against Tennessee. You did win, and then you looked bad against Washington, and now the playoffs happen.
And I 100% get that. Here's your road to the playoffs would be, because I think the teams you're going to face have similar kinds of issues, is Tampa Bay lost 3 of their last 5. If you want to step back to Thanksgiving, they lost 4 of their last 7, and that included a miracle Tom Brady comeback as one of the wins. Philadelphia has lost 2 of their last 3, and if you're like, well, that's because Jalen Hurts was out, Jalen Hurts still ain't 100%. So, like, that's the baggage that they're bringing with them. Is I totally understand, why Cowboys fans are pessimistic because of either the way they're playing right now or because of all the historical baggage. I'll just tell you.
And I think that's why what you're doing, though, is you're bringing, I like your points. They're valid points. But Cowboy fans aren't following Tampa Bay right now. And that's what we need to do, that's why we're here, is to help go, hey, this is a really bad team you're playing. This is, it's Tom Brady, but this is a very bad team. That's why Vegas, at least on a piece of paper, says you guys should win this game by 3 to 4 points. And so
they are vulnerable,
Right. But I think Cowboy fans are just looking specifically at their own team.
Which I definitely get, and I think you're right about that. Now, we asked the question, and the answers go across the board, as you might guess, but there does seem to be a consistent theme in here from the 214. Second round would be nice, but I really need to see them in the NFC Championship. From the 214, 2 wins would be awesome. That puts you in the NFC Championship. From the 214, I need 2 playoff wins, please. I'm not a Dak hater. I'm not a Dak lover. He needs to get it done in the playoffs. That's all I want to see. Regular season accolades don't mean squat if you can't win in the playoffs. Perfect example, Tony Romo. There are multiple people who are like, duh, 4. It has to be 4. But the consensus number seems to be 2, which, as Corey mentioned, would get you in the NFC Championship.
In the Twitch chat, I should say.
Yes.
They're saying, do you think this is the best chance in a long time that the Cowboys have?
I do.
They have to capitalize.
I do not, and it's not just because of their team. We've talked about this a lot. The teams, look, if you play San Francisco, they don't give a crap who their quarterback is. They just keep winning. I'm not here to tell you that San Francisco is faltering down the stretch, but the teams before that, Tampa Bay is not a good team. They've been struggling. Minnesota, you already blew their doors off. The Giants, you beat them twice. The Eagles, their starting quarterback still ain't healthy, and that's why they lost 2 of their last 3 games. Like, there are flaws with many of these playoff teams, and I just think the Cowboys are fundamentally, I think they're for sure better than 4 of them. Now, the Eagles in San Francisco, I don't think they're better than San Francisco. But the Eagles, I'm curious about that.
But with that being said, it's the playoffs. Who cares what you did in the regular season? That's done. It's a clean slate. Everybody's 0-0 right now.
And that's where I think all the baggage comes in, because you lost definitively to San Francisco last year. And in terms of being out physicaled and everything like that, we brought up the stat yesterday that the Cowboys haven't won a road game in the playoffs in 30 years. Like, there are a lot of negative stats that come along with the Cowboys in the playoffs.
But that's what makes it great, is it's You have a clean slate. It's 0-0 now.
Agreed.
Everybody's a whole different team. Who cares what you did in the past? It's done. You're in. Now it's time to go.
Would you say this is a better chance than 2016? Because you are way better than everybody in the NFC.
Yeah, you know
year.
what? That's a good point because I remember. You know what? You're right.
That's not the Des Cotty,
That's
right?
14.
Okay.
16 is Dak's rookie year. You go 13-2. You don't play the last game, and you get the bye. And Green Bay was 10-6, but they didn't look great coming into the playoffs.
And that team started slow, and the
next
Cowboys
best
started
record
slow
was
in the playoffs
11
a
and
lot of
5
times.
that year.
was
Atlanta was 11-5 was the next best record in the NFC.
I think 2016 and 2007. I know 2007 the Cowboys weren't playing great going into
Right.
it, but you were still matching up against a team you had already beaten.
2014, I still believe, was then Des Cotty year.
Yeah.
Like that guy, that was the Mike. That team was. They came back. It was one of those, like, they were zombies. You couldn't kill them no matter what. Tony Romo's team, their run game was good enough to stay in it. They could block it. They beat Seattle in
At Seattle,
Seattle,
yeah.
doing what they did best. That was my team. But yeah, man, I agree that there's nobody that is unbeatable in the NFC in the playoffs that the Cowboys can't beat. I also believe that there's nobody that they can't lose to in the NFC playoffs. So like that's
for
that's where the
sure.
Cowboys are, is they got to have some things go their way, and they can't come out with a bland game plan on either side of the ball, and they can't come out flat. They got to come out and put it down easy very fast and say, all right, now y'all came to play us today.
I know a lot of people are saying or I've seen a contingent say you got to win at least 3 to get to the Super Bowl, but like I get that now. All is said and done.
Big game, by the way.
Yeah, no, is you beat Tampa and then you go on the road and beat Philly and make it to the NFC Championship game and lose in the NFC Championship game. Don't you think most people will come back and be like, okay?
Yeah, I think a lot of people would be pretty satisfied with that. And Kevin,
I would.
Then to add on, they would say, I think McCarthy is, you got to win in the playoffs. McCarthy went to the next step on that.
Yeah.
Not only that, do I want to take the risk of not being McCarthy has this grand plan of what this team looks like, and he's been adding to it, and they've been growing it together. I don't think it's going to fall off the face of the planet if McCarthy sticks around next year. I don't know, but his history as a head coach doesn't tell me that it's just going to fall off like that. So I would expect them to be back in the playoffs next year, kind of in a similar way.
And to Derek's point, I understand all of the issues that this team has and all the issues this franchise has. But when he talks about a clean slate, like there's been twice this year where the Cowboys have lost a game and then won 4 straight games.
Mm-hmm.
If they win 4 straight games this time, they're the world champions. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but that's an exciting prospect, is you made it to the point where you win 4 in a row, you're the world champions, and we're going to the parade and everything like that.